Greetings YouTube, Alain Unleashed back at you from right here at the Green Thumb Gardening Channel, right here in Grow Zone 8B in Tifton, Georgia. And in today's video YouTube, I'm super excited to be bringing you guys along with me back around to our preparation table in our backyard garden extended grow area for the results of our rooting Coleus cuttings in water propagation experiment that we started approximately 9 days ago YouTube. That's right, it's been approximately 9 days since we began that propagation experiment. And as promised YouTube, I'm bringing you guys back along with me today to show you exactly what has happened with both our mint chocolate Coleus cuttings and our orange apricot Coleus cuttings. Hang tight YouTube. Alright YouTube, here we are back in our backyard food forest here at our preparation table with our 3 containers of Coleus cuttings that we've done an experiment on propagating in water approximately 9 days ago YouTube. I'm going to show you the results of what has happened YouTube, but before I do that YouTube, I urge each and every one of you to pause this video right now, scroll down to the description beneath this video, and click on the link to a video that we posted on our other channel, South Georgia Figs, approximately 4 days ago YouTube. I'm asking you guys to do that now because I gave information in that video that will be proven true in this video. So do that now as I get my tripod set up and get my camera set up on my tripod YouTube. And while I'm doing that, you guys watch that video, hop back over here, and then watch the conclusion to this video. Thanks. Alright YouTube, we're back. And as you guys can see here on our preparation table, we have our original 3 containers of Coleus cuttings. As you recall, we took several smaller cuttings from our mint chocolate Coleus cutting plant. And we told you guys we would try to propagate those as well. These are the cuttings from the larger cuttings from our mint chocolate Coleus plant YouTube, and these are the cuttings we took from our orange apricot Coleus plant YouTube. Just as promised in that previous video YouTube, I told you guys some of the leaves would be these plants would shed some of their leaves, some of the leaves would droop on some of these cuttings, they would drop some of the leaves would completely die. All of that happened, and just as I promised you guys in that last video, while these cuttings were shedding unneeded leaves, the cuttings themselves would also be developing roots in these containers down here. That also happened. But if you guys did actually pause this video, hop over to our other channel, South Georgia Figs, and watch that video, you'll recall from that video that we gave a tip about propagating cuttings that not only applies to fig tree cuttings when you're propagating them in water, but it applies to any other plant that you're going to take a cutting from and propagate in water YouTube. Propagating cuttings, when you're propagating them in water, if you watch that video, you already know this. When it comes to propagating any type of cuttings in water, the amount of water that you have in your container matters a lot. And again, if you guys watch that other video, I told you exactly why the amount of water that you have in a container matters. And if you guys actually recall from our last video on when we first began to propagate these cuttings, you recall that I filled these containers all the way up to the top with water, all 3 containers. You guys saw me do that in that previous video YouTube. I'm going to show you guys what happened. And again, the results of this video is going to prove the information that I gave in that fig cutting propagation video to be true YouTube. Take a look at this. Once I told you guys in that fig propagating video, when it comes to rooting cuttings, that the amount of water that you had in your container would dictate the amount of water pressure in your container also. And I told you guys the higher the water pressure in the container was, the harder it would be for your cuttings to actually push out roots in the areas of the container that had higher water pressure. Now these results are going to prove that to be true YouTube. I'm going to remove some of these cuttings from these containers, but before I do that, I'm going to bring these containers up close to the camera so you can see where the roots, the majority of the roots on these cuttings actually formed at YouTube. And they're going to be formed exactly where I told you guys they would be formed at in that fig cutting propagating video, if you indeed filled your container all of the way up with water. Take a look at this YouTube. Alright. Now you guys can see all the way down, hopefully, into the bottom of this container down here YouTube. I'm not sure if my camera is doing any justice YouTube. But some of our cuttings, actually, the longer ones actually go all the way down to the bottom of the containers. We have about 4 that actually go all the way down to the bottom of the containers YouTube. The rest of them come about halfway down in the container, and many of them are up close to the top of this container, YouTube. I'm going to pull these longest one out first and show you guys that, again, water pressure has a lot to do with where roots form on your container. So remember this when propagating any type of cuttings in water from now on. The less amount of water you have in your container, the easier it would be, it'll be for your cuttings to push out roots and begin to propagate. They'll propagate a lot faster and push out a lot more roots if you only have a tiny amount of water in your container. Now, it doesn't matter what type of plant you're propagating, it applies to all types of cuttings. Take a look at this, YouTube. I'm going to pull out one of these longer ones first, bring it up close to the camera and show you guys what happened. Now, if you guys can see this, you will see that we have 1, 2, 3 growth nodes that were actually beneath the water in this container. First growth node, 0 roots, as I told you guys what happened in that fig propagating video. Second growth node, 0 roots, as I told you guys what happened in that fig propagating video. Up near the surface of the container though, YouTube. Third growth node, tons of roots. Can you guys see that? Is the camera capturing that? The roots that actually came, formed on this cutting started up at the top of the container where the water pressure was the lowest. So again, YouTube, it doesn't take a full glass of water or a full container of water to propagate cuttings, and if you do, you're going to be wasting growth nodes. I mean, I could have had growth nodes on both of these, roots on both of these growth nodes down here, had I only had water up to this point. Instead, I only have roots along one growth node that was located near the top of the container where the water pressure, again, YouTube, was the lowest. So water pressure matters a lot, YouTube. I'm going to pull out that the second of our longest cuttings and show you guys same scenario, YouTube, exact same scenario. If you notice that bottom cutting, the bottom growth node at the bottom of the cutting, 0 roots formed out here, YouTube. 0 roots formed along that second growth node right there. Third growth node near the top of the container where the water pressure was the lowest, we have roots. Again, water pressure matters, YouTube. Now, YouTube, I want to show you guys something a little different. This is one of the shortest cuttings from our orange apricot Coleus plants, cuttings that we took. The bottom of this plant only came up to near the surface of the water. I'm going to show you what happened. Very bottom growth node, YouTube. If the camera's capturing that. Very bottom growth node near the surface of the container, and it has roots on it. Remember those long cuttings that extended all the way down into the bottom of the container where the water pressure was the highest? No roots along the first or second growth nodes, but roots along the third growth node, which was at the point subsequently in the container where this cutting's bottom growth node was located. They all form roots along the same place, YouTube. So it's not rocket science. It's not a military secret. Water pressure matters a lot when you're propagating cuttings in water. I'm going to pull out our fourth and final long cutting, YouTube, and show you the exact same thing. It just begun to form roots, but if you look, YouTube, at that bottom growth node down there, nothing. Second one, nothing. Look at that third one, YouTube. If I can get the camera to focus on that in front of my finger, you guys can see that. It's forming roots along that third growth node, which was located near the top of the container where the water pressure was the lowest. It's the same scenario with the rest of our short cuttings, YouTube. Got those roots, first growth node, which were located at the top of the container where the water pressure was the lowest. Again, it's day 9. We have a total of 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We had a total of 13 Coleus cuttings that we took from our orange apricot Coleus plant in our front yard garden extended grow area. 12 out of 13 of those cuttings are all successfully rooted, YouTube. I'm going to take you guys over to our mint chocolate Coleus cuttings over there and show you guys the results of what happened with those cuttings as well. Hang tight.